So the people have they have page 314, 315, 316. Is that the idea? You guys?
Yeah.
314.
Yeah. 315.
Am I speaking loud now?
Yeah. I think you're good. Keep
I
talking.
should
I think
speak
you're
loud.
good. Yeah, good.
When I have this in, I can't really tell about the height of my voice.
It's good.
So we're learning this evening a continuation of the Dvar Malchus of Parshas Korach, Toshin Nun Aleph, which we learned approximately half of it last week. And we're continuing the same Dvar Malchus, which is very long and very full of inyanim. And we're going to work more towards the latter section of the Rebbe's Sicho. And the reason for that is that on that year, like this year, the people in Chutz La'aretz are like a week after us because of the Kriyas HaTorah that there was on Shavuos, etc. So they have Parsha Chukas on Asara the Tammuz, and we have Parsha Chukas on Gimel Tammuz. And so the Sicho of Parsha Chukas deals with the whole fact that it's Asara. It's a whole big deal on the whole even 10th of Tammuz and what's that signal. So I thought that's more shy to our union, since we're holding by Gimel Tammuz, that we should continue in the line of what we learned last week and see what sort of further maskonas we can reach. So where I understand that you people have almost 314, is that right?
Yes.
All right, so in order that we should get sort of back into the picture, the Rebbe dealt with, as far as we are now, wait a minute, I didn't introduce it, did I? I don't think I did. Did I say what date it is and whatever it is? It's not important. So we're learning in the Dvar Malchus of Parshas Korach Toshin Nun Aleph, the Hemshech of the Sicho of Gimel Tammuz Toshin Nun Aleph, and the learning is in the Beit Knesset of the Tzedek in Ira Kodesh, Tsfat, Shicho v'Sabeinen. And this evening is Beis Tammuz, Thursday night, Beis Tammuz, Toshin Tet. So we were seeing that the Rebbe asked the general question, we dealt with that in some detail, why did the nest of Gimel Tammuz, why did it go in what we might call stages or developing Slavim? Why wasn't there a nest Godel at one go? Particularly that's clear to everybody who knows anything about what happened then, that it's a Nes Godel, the whole thing. But nonetheless, it went in stages. First of all, they freed the Frierdiker Rebbe from the prison, and he was able to go and visit his family. Then he had to get on the train, go across to Kostromar, and then he was in Kostromar only for a few days, and then absolutely miraculously, the same people who put him in, and exactly the same authorities that they had brought to his arrest, they were the ones that were busy in freeing him, and ultimately, even more than that, they were the ones who were busy to make sure that he left the country. they wanted, in the end, they wanted very much that he should leave. So we see it was a great geula, but it went in stages. And the Rebbe compared that to the Indian of another great thing that happened on Gimel Tammuz, many generations before, and that's when Yeshua said to the sun, in Giva, in the Shemesh B'Givan Doim. So we saw the whole Indian that the Rebbe built out of that, a similar thing. Right from the very beginning, Yeshua could have asked for a Teshua, that they would be able to win the war miraculously, swiftly, and there wouldn't be any need. Elamai, there was a certain requirement from heaven that there be a continuation of the war, but there teva, because you can't, in those days, chase your enemy who is fleeing from you at nighttime, because he can hide, you can't see what you're doing. So Yeshua continued the Derech HaTeva to chase the enemy. However, he asked the Shemesh that it should stop. So the day would be miraculously longer, and they would be able to continue the fight and the Milchama. So we see that the whole union of the tremendousness of Shemesh, the given time, was only in order to enable the Teva also to carry on with great efficiency. So we see, and there was a point that the Rebbe made, that the actual ness of Hamodas Hashemesh, according to most Meforshim, involved a huge change in the Teva, Lamaida. Because if the Shemesh stops all of a sudden, then all sorts of heavenly bodies had to stop and change their orbit. And otherwise there'd have been a tremendous flight in the Galva Yoimi and all the whole galaxy of where they all had to run differently. So the Rebbe said that's Ein and Teva. We see that the Teva all came along, behetem to the net. So ask yourself the question, why was that? And then we compared that to another ness that occurred even earlier, and that was the ness of the Korach, Mate Arin, that after Malchus Korach, Hashem said to take the Matuis from each tribe, and Korach, Mate Arin, his Mate group. However, the Rebbe made the point, when you study carefully what actually happened, was that first of all, the mater, which is just a piece of wood, it began sprouting like leaves and branches. Then it brought out the first stages of the fruit, and then it went through a further stage, and the fruit appeared in a full way. Well, even though that happened quickly, and that's Shaloi B'derech HaTeva, but nonetheless, there was a whole Seder of Teva, that it was first of all just a little green twig, and then it had flowers, and then it had the appearance of the fruits, which is called Chanota, and then the development of the fruits. And the Rebbe said that's a certain to do with nature. The nest was a great nest, but it occurred in the union of spurring and combining with the union of nature, with net. So the Rebbe learned out from that a whole era, which we discussed at great length last week, and that is that the Nisim that are connected with the common factor in these three great events is that Hashem wants that the Lamaylim Yateva Lagamri of a greatness should nonetheless combine together and enter the field of Teva, and it should, as it were, enrich and be Mazaris, had it goes to add speed and energy to the Teva. So the Rebbe said we see from that in Cain that the ultimate Kavanah, Elakis of Hashem, is he wants a combination between Legamri Lamayla Mi'ateva with what we call the Gidrei Ha'olam, the definitional concepts of a world which is functioning according to its rules, which is called Teva, the Lashon HaKodesh. There should be like a combination. The world as a world should be able to become a kli and a way of announcing the unbelievable greatness of Hashem. And that's what we saw, that was the Indian. In Aveda, the Rebbe said that the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos at the end says that the whole purpose of the creation was Loibora HaKadosh Baruch as Kol Olam Ela Likvoidoi, who Shebora Likvoidoi, the aim to create the whole world only to add to the to the publication of his glory and his greatness. Of the man, the creation of man is to make him a vehicle only for expressing Hashem's greatness and Hashem's glory. And therefore, the Rebbe went the whole thing that we find that the world, according to the Baal Shem Tov, comes about every minute. It's not just that Hashem created the world, but it's an ongoing, tremendous fact every minute that the world is coming into creation every second. So why does Hashem need to do that? So one of the explanations is that the Elikus has to be inside of every nivra because of the greatness of Yesh Miyayim. So the Rebbe said, well, Hashem could have made the world in such a way that he made a tremendous power that would sit inside the ash for 6,000 years or however long he wants the world to be, until Moshiach and Tchias HaMeis. And then after that, we'd see what to do further. Or there could be just a massive one-time power that would just hold, and it would be inside the ash and it would hold him. What do you need it? So the Rebbe said, it's not ultimately a logical thing why Hashem did it that way, but once Hashem did do it that way, we can understand certain great advantages that come from that. And the main thing for our union is when a mensch realizes that he has to do with a new creation every minute, then a new thing causes oineg, a thing that's already there and it's just been there and it's going to just be there. It becomes after a while, how do you call it, shigrati, to use this expression. In modern Hebrew, like routine or boring. But if it's a new world every minute, then the match has chayas in some, and that oineg gives him a thought, what is he doing in the world? That creates in him a realization that he's only here for the sake of Hashem's glory. And that's what the Mishnah says in Kedushin, Ani lo nivreisi ela l'sham Hashem. The whole purpose of my creation is only to serve him. And how do I do that? By pronouncing his glory and his great. That's the whole thing. And therefore, when you make a bracha, that's in the present tense. And all the brachas, noisein hatoiro, everything is in the present. Boy rei pri hodo. He's creating it now. Not he did create it. If you look carefully, the nusach, the brachas, is such a nusach. Derech Hagav, it's also brought in Tzidus, Barichas, that the Torah is also like that. The Torah is being renewed every day and every moment, just like the world. So what you learned a minute ago is not the same Torah as what you're studying now. And if a person helps that, then he really gets a tremendous motivation to be involved in limited Torah. It's like an unbelievable oinig that he's dealing with a new revelation the whole time. So therefore, when you make Shahakul, you are pronouncing the glory of Hashem to the world, to your own nefesh habamis, to your own self, to the whole world around you. And when you make a bracha after another short while, you make another bracha on water. It's not the same water that was there before. It's another water altogether. Therefore, Shahakil Niyah Bidvore, and that's a whole new pronouncement of Hashem's glory. That had that been just a one-time thing, it wouldn't have those whole characteristics that lead to the enthusiasm of the autumn, ultimately speaking. So that was the era, that was sort of more or less where we got to in the Sicho last week. Because this is very tremendously built together. It's like a huge, like kneading of all sorts of amazing swatters and factors that all sort of knead together and come together. Because you have to follow very carefully the development. So we take time. It's a very big project to cover a lot of ground. So that's a bit error where we were holding. So the Rebbe said we see in Cain that Hashem didn't want that things should happen outside the Giddah of the world. Only when it's very, very necessary, like Kriyas Yamsuf, when it was a very urgent situation. But even there's certain ways of showing. Nonetheless, it also relates in some way to the Gidra Ha'ilam. That's a further argument. We have enough as it is at the moment. So the Rebbe found that in the nest of Shemesh Begiva in Doim, and he found that in the nest of the Korach Mata'arin, that it went through like a quick stage of Teva. It all developed in a natural way. So that's where we're holding. So the Rebbe said, what's that got to do with the fact that the Mate Aaron was a proof on the Kahuna? There was a proof, and it was a sign. And later, the Moshe Rabbeinu was told by Hashem that he has to put the Mate Aaron forever inside for all the generations to come. It was only when Yoshiyahu HaMelech, 180 years before the Churban, he said to put everything down, and he hid the Aron Kodesh, whatever was with it, way down under the base of Mikdash. As it went on, the Rambam brings it, the whole thing of Amir. Then it's written, the Gemara says, that he hid also the Tzimtzem Saman, and he also hid the Mate Ari. And the Mate, he still had the flowers and the leaves at the top of the Mate. So the Rebbe said, you already had the nest, why did you have to have that forever? People said, because that's part of it. That's an essential part of the whole message. Yeah. So the Rebbe said, what's all this got to do with the Kahuna? What sort of a proof is that? And how does that relate to the Kahuna? So everybody will permit me just to make a problem. The Rebbe said to make a sha'akal. So, the Rebbe says like this, that what's so special about the Kohen? He said the more simple level on which all Yidden have a connection with the Kahuna, it builds us Kohen. Yeah, when you see every day in certain parts of the world, and here in Tsfat, whenever there's a Musaf, so the Kohenim go up and they bless the people in the shul. For that matter, they give out blessing all around. So the Rebbe said, we find a very fascinating thing that the Alter Rebbe tells us in Makutei Torah that when they say the bracha, they say it in the form of a tzivui. They like command Hashem that he should do it. They say, Yivarech Hashem. Hashem's got to do this. You know, the Yishmarecha, it's like a form of a command. So the Rebbe said, what is the commandment? They're saying that this has got to go different than everything else. Everything else that comes from above down goes through Histoshalis. It goes through a whole series of Oilamas and Histoshalis and everything. So there can be all sorts of how do you call it, slight hold-ups and interferences depending on whether, the Malachim are prepared to give reports and give good reports and so on and so on. There can be little hold-ups. He said the Kohanim command in such a way that the tremendously high level of the Birchas Kohanim comes down straight with Bezrizos, Haki Gedela. Yeah, that's what the altar must be in last week's Parsha in Parsha Korach, when it comes to the evening. So the Rebbe said years that on the one hand, well, Amailami Seder Hishtal, a very high level, and the Kohanim are commanding that this happen. But what happens is that the altar Rebbe said it goes through Seder Hishtal. It goes through the whole Seder Hishtal. It doesn't jump it over. It just runs through. It goes bezrizos, but it goes through the Seder Hishtal. If you look in the Maimah over there, it does it a pshat. Oh, Melekuta said, on one hand, you have bezrizos. It's not being held up in a normal way whatsoever. However, it is going through the Seder Hishtal. So the Rebbe said, in case the Kahuna, the whole inner of the Kahuna indicates the same principle. That on the one hand, it's koiches beyond the normal koich of Levim and Yisraelim altogether, and yet nonetheless, it does have a certain connection, and it elevates and promotes a whole different koyach in the Seder Hishtal. It goes down through the Seder Hishtal. Therefore, the Mate Arin, it was a raya, and it was approved for the Kahuna. Because the same thing, it was just a piece of wood, and happened an amazing nest. But it happened through the Teva. It grew, and it came out with all things that normally happen, but Teva. It was a combination of a nest, and it happened with results. It also went quickly, but it went through nature.
And that's why Skadim, Skadim Lashin.
Yeah. So the same here.
Yeah.
It has to go through the Seder Hishtal, but it goes with results, because it's really coming from a very, very amazingly high level. That's the whole inyan of the Kahuna. That's the connection with these Nisim, and especially with the inyan of the Kahuna. So that's where we were holding, and that's what he says at the top of 314. Yeah, he said that the Birchas Kohanim goes down, Iberes Derek Kol Oilamas, Lochain Kivut Shazehu in Yonah, Shala Kahuna. Yeah, that's the inner of the Kahuna, that the highest level should go to all the Oilamas. Gamasiman, Lebachiras Akodi Bohu, Ba'aroin, the Kahuna, Oyesod Dabki Bishkadim. The Shkadim are the first, they're very swift fruits. They come out before everybody else. They're very, very zarid, as one up. Yeah, Hamyamarim Lido, Mikola Peiras. But Bizeg Gufa, Bemahiras Gadela, Shalay Alpiteva, Talk Laila Khat, the whole thing happened overnight. Yeah, but nonetheless, it went through the Imzois, in Kolatalika TV, and that all the whole thing of Teva, even though it happened, Bezrizas, and that's the simon of the Indian Kahuna. Of a mele, how do you call it? It's what they say, to use the vernacular expression, it's a goysa matzia to have Birchas Kohanim. When the Kohanim go up and they rinse, that's a goysa matzia, how do you call it? It's an amazing gift that we have from Hashem. Yeah, l'mayla mikol seder hishtalsheles, and it comes down through hishtalsheles, goes through all the elements, but it's not hold up. It doesn't get adequate. Nobody would, to use the expression, nobody would dare to interfere with it. It comes down straight, and that's the commandment. Yivarez v'chol Hashem v'yishmerev. It's a tzivui on the part of the Kohen. That's the inyan. So now the Rebbe says, Hevdel ben Korach Chukas. Let's take a look now what happens. And he says, Inyan zeh shaya gam leParsha Korach. But it also got to do with Korach. He said the name Korach v'Chukas Mulkovish Teyeh Meyois Yischo. Yeah, the word Korach, yeah, is the word chok with a reich. And the idiom from Chukas is the word chok with a tov. And reish and tov have a connection. Because reish is, how do you call it, 200, and tov is 400. You follow? Avamela, reish and tov have some sort of interrelation. Noah then, Korach didn't get it right. With him, it didn't go good. The clock got out of gear. Although when we moved to Parshas Chukas, then everything's in gear, everything's in proper, how do you call it, proportion and proper balance. So he says, in Yonishal clock, the holding of a clock is something completely beyond reasoning. And the pneumius in Yonim, what does that mean? Korach ra mitzad goydel malosai. Korach soka. I told you last week that a lot of great Polish rebbeim, they used to refer to Korach in very high, how do you call it, the descriptive term, which he was a very elevated individual, Korach. And yet, nonetheless, he got it wrong. It didn't work out. But basically, he wasn't just a archie-parky, he wasn't just a troublemaker. He was a very elevated person. So he said, he saw something. And what did he see? That was mitzad goydel malosai. He came to this vision due to his great level. Es giloi hanayla shel hamayla mitam v'das, sheyeh liyosid lavoi. Yeah, he saw what it's going to be like liyosid lavoi. What then? All the Levium are going to be koyanim. Yeah, how they cut the result tells us that ain't no hanami after Moshiach. Then the Levium, the altar brings it in Tanya Perek Nun. Yeah, that the liyosid lavoi. Aleviim, you are koyanim. He wanted to be a koyan because he saw what happened to the Yossi Lovin. It's going to happen to Yossi Lovin. His problem was that he wanted to be right away. And Moshe Rabbeinu said that can't be. That's not Shiur right now. The world's got to go through a certain process. That's what Hashem wants until we'll reach that point. The Rebbe's Chiddush is that we're holding by that point. But what was wrong with Korach? He says, Shelamayla mitam v'das, is ta'use hoyso inyan hareish. He linked the word chok with the letter reish. He said, Ois reish is rosh. Anios, the word rosh, as a word, rosh and kodesh, means a poor person. A rosh is a poor man. Yeah. Rashut can be, Rashut is poverty. Yeah. And Mameli said, Ois reish anius, mivateis shagilu hanayla amokshova vadibo einam yordim lamais. The Rebbe says, what is anias lamayla? Hashem can't be poor, he's not rich. And how can we say, is that me? Maybe it's my thing. So, yeah, I remember I was by the Rebbe the first time that the Rebbe, 5, and he came to Meir Rabbi Chatzira, or Rabbi Sholem. He was an amazing guy, by the way. You guys heard of Meir Rabbi Chatzira? Yeah, and the Rebbe turned him like this, and so he put his 2 fingers in his mouth like that. Wow, he put out a tremendous whistle. Yeah, the Rebbe realized that he knew how to do it. Very good. So the Rebbe said that his whole purpose in that is to teach the Chassidim that you have to pipe up the belt. You know what that means in Yiddish? You have to whistle at the world. You have to pipe up the belt. Yeah. No, at least give a smile. If a male, don't look, you're so surprised. That's what you're supposed to be doing, piping up the well. If a male, said the Rebbe, come to us, that there's no rich and no poor by the Eibishter. So therefore said the Rebbe, what does it mean, something poor from Hashem? He said something that doesn't fulfill its emissary ultimate tachlis, or that's called poor. It's missing out, it's lacking. So he said Korach wanted very, very high madrigas, and he wanted that they should just come into the world then the way they were. So the Rebbe said that doesn't work that way. What Hashem does is that Hashem connects the Olam HaElin and the Olam HaTachton, or it goes through, say, the Histoshlas, but at the same time, the ultimate highness of the Hamshocha reaches its point. Korach wanted to do it just, how they call it, boom, right from the beginning. And that's called Anias. It's lacking the proper build-up of the, as it were, the Ashira Shalamayim. So the Rebbe said that was Korach's problem. Yeah, he said, Einam Yodim Lamaisa, Shekain Bo'ois Zu. He said the same with the Indian of the Ois Reish, Yeshnam Rakshnei Kavim. Yeah, there's only two Kavim in a Reish. He said, Ha'elyon v'ha'yamini. He said the top one and the right one. Amolim al makshova v'b'diva. Achoser hakava smoli. Well, that's my, he said, Reish is good. It's got a top line, it's got a side line. Top line is Dvarim Elyonim, side line is going down, Dvarim Tachtonim. Over no sign, that's Makshova, and that's Diva. But he said there's lacking the little foot at the side. There's no mice. In other words, Korach was a great, philosopher. He was, and there've been many of them through the generations. Great people that were into all sorts of, but they wanted the sort of, the Meraglim were very similar in it. They wanted, an oilum, Muvdal Miyamais. They were concerned with having to do with practicality of the world and so on. So therefore, the Rebbe said, there's no cover small or something similar to a cover small in the race. The race is like just a naked two kavim. That's very important to pay attention. So the Rebbe said, so he came in Yonah Shol Korach. Oh, that's what Korach wants. Yuma Zois, but Chukas, in the word Chukas, mitpateis hashleimas be'inyan zeh. He said, on the contrary, in our parsha, the inyan from the chok yoyred lamaisa mamish. He said, "Habumas ba'ois tov." Yeah, in other words, chukas is not a rage; it's a chok with a tov. If you look in the parsha, he goes in the Rebbe to this. That if you look in the parsha, where Mataya Tumas Smith, and Tumas Smith is a very big Yerida, and yet nonetheless we go all the way down, and we're Ishikin, we Mataya, even the Tumas Smith. So the Rebbe said that's in the Amshocha Lamata Mata, and that's in the Marumas in the Os Tov. Yes, so the Rebbe said Shloisha Akavim Makshova Diba Umaisa, that there's another cow. Well, that indicates the inner of Maisa. He said Diba Beinayhem Uba Even Yashir. He said the Diba. I'm sorry, not the Diba. The Chibo, I'm sorry. The Chibo Beinayhem. He said the kasha between the Reish and the Lamata is here a straight line. He said, Ba'ivin Yashia, Yakishem Shabatur Zai, Shloisha Hakivim Kavim, Mukhubarim. In the top, the three lines are all connected one with the other. Not like the race. With the race, you've got a third line, but it's there's a gap. It doesn't quite make it to the alien. Yeah, the hay. But he said the Maila with the Tov is that the third line, which indicates Maisa, is connected with the top. He said, and that indicates that you've got an absolute connection between the alien and the Tefting. In a hay, it's also very good. It's also very relevant. One time the Kisvei Arizal about that. But there's a little gap, and we learn all sorts of good things from that. There's a little gap. He said, by a top, you don't have that gap. It's a straight line down, which indicates that the Maisa is complete and utter. It's chibur. It's joining up with the highest level of Elikus is absolute. And it comes all the way down into the Elam HaPoshet that's even able to be Mataya Tumas Meir. V'yachedim zoish, yesh bo gam, Nakuda, B'taktisa, Amoyre, Alinyan Abitlo. He said, a toe comes down to the bottom and then there's a little sort of a Nakuda at the end of the toe. So the Rebbe said, what's that? So he said, that's the Indian of the beetle, and that's like it isn't worthy of what you might call. That's the pitch line. How does the cover have the ability to be joined up right from the top all the way down to the bottom? It's got the little yud of beetle at the bottom. And that little yud of beetle is a very high power. Like we said, you guys don't come to the Shiur. Yesterday night, we had a whole thing about the from Bittel, all big arenas about that last night in the Shiur in Hebrew. You were there, and we saw the whole Indian from Bittel. Well, that's what poils all the emissary, Hamshoch. Where there's a little bit of yesh, then that gets in the way. Or what is Bittel, then as it were, the Evis takes over. The same thing here, a little thing at the bottom. Well, that's what gives that curve of the top the ability to come all the way down. And he said, in a Bittel, Chukas. Then it becomes the word Chukas, Meloshin Chakika, Amshochanitkias, Laloishinway. Ordinary, how do you call it an ordinance, is something that never changes. It's a chok, how do you call it, a statute, absolute, without any changes. So he said, where you have a nakuda, a beetle, then that's poil, everything comes all the way down, and it's everlasting. It becomes a everlasting part of the whole makeup of the world. That's nice. Excuse me for saying so, but that's amazing. I suppose you can say in the middle of a shiur of this sort of nature, you can say l'chaim of coffee also. Yeah. Nachas also anecdote. Yeah. Ain't no gonna. But the ches doesn't have the little nakuda bittel at the bottom. The top's got a little sort of piecel there, and that's a yud. That's bittel. That's the difference. Over Mela says the Rebbe, that's the difference between Korach and Chukas. Korach, he had Machshava and Dvar, but he didn't make it in the Maisa. No. On the contrary, the tzaddik soin is darky to come lamata, to bring everything lamata. Korach wanted just to be beyond, he wanted to be high. Over the real tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, he told him no way about it has to be chukas. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's how a tough looks. It's got a little piece of there at the side. Tzaddik. You mean a tzaddik is also like that? Yeah, but I never mix my drinks. A tzaddik's got another in it about it. But I stick to what I'm on. If I'm on vodka, I stick with vodka. So, Mela says the Rebbe, it comes out that that's the amazing difference between Korach and Chukas. Mela says the Rebbe, what's got to do with us? So he says, Achok, alamayla me'avona v'tam v'das, niktas v'choide b'kol ha'dargos, ve'ha'shlavim. Well, that means that the top comes all the way down from the top to the bottom. It means it goes through all the levels and it penetrates them at the same time. It goes through all the levels on its way down. Yeah. 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 Beshoina Mikoira was different because he wanted to stay only Lamaila. Hamarumas Ba'ish Tov. What is the so the Rebbe said that a Tov is the finish, and because the end of everything is a Tov. It's the last letter. So the last letter of the elevation indicates what we might call the siyum of the Aveda. And the siyum and the ultimate upshot of everything has to be that all the highest madrigas come down lamata into, that's the ultimate tachlis. And therefore said the Rebbe, the siyum and the choisam, the kopei sois is a Torah, is a kol. So he said the Korach shlovim v'hamadregas, and all the levels in the middle have to be penetrated by the top. You follow by the left leg of the top. V'yachedim zois, adov v'nase kasher kamur, slicha. The whole thing occurs, as we already said, by even shel chibur, ve'ina makshova v'diba l'maisa, l'loi hefsek beinehem, b'dugmas chibur, Nes imateva. So the Rebbe said the fact that the Torah doesn't have any gap whatsoever, and it's mitchaber with the top line, not like the hay of the line, is that there's absolutely no hefsek whatsoever. That this swiftness and this power to penetrate the holy social is absolute and even visited with zrizos, that he comes with swiftness. And that's why the talk. Now, this is, by the way, a very amazing part of the whole, of the Rebbe's development of the Sicho, because in some places it put down that sometimes talk is, since it's the last letter of the alphabet, that it's sort of like not all that such a great indication. That's what occurs in certain places. But here the Rebbe is taking a miler in the building together of the old stove. And that is that the cover of the miler and going lamata are connected with another cover which goes all the way down lamata. And that's the indicatory of the miser that has no hefsek whatsoever. It's joined up with the inyan of the milam, brings the miso all the way down into Elam Hazeh, and the trick that is the little force at the bottom, the inyan of it's not that it comes without judgment, but all the judges to say, keep going. All the judges just wave it off. Follow? They would like to say something, but they'd say, that's coming from the Kohen. Straight ahead. It's so therefore the Rebbe said that's the unbelievable greatness of the Torah. He's got this chibur all the way down. And no hefsek ben time, there's no interruption whatsoever. Al pian al muvan. Madua hanes shel shemesh b'kiva indoim. Now we will understand, says the Rebbe, why the nest that occurred with what's his name, Yeshua. The nest that occurred, we'll now understand that. He said, he davka hoya davka ba'im kozeh shekoshu legidrei hateva. We see that the nest of Yeshua had a kesher darky with the darky and what we would call the definitional status of Teva. Kivan shetakli sanes ka'omu yiha yitzia mi'ateva. The taklis of any nest is to go out of the Teva. Ela adarav, he said, apula betokta. I'm sorry, where am I? I'm sorry. The whole inyan of a nest, says the Rebbe, here comes an amazing point that the Rebbe said if we examine the whole union of this nest plus the nest of the Mate Aren, then we come to the conclusion that the whole tachlis of a nest is not to stay outside Darkei HaTeva. The whole union of a nest is to add a tremendous impetus inside the ways and the what you might call the fencing situations of the Teva. In other words, that the world is going to continue functioning, but it'll function with a new impetus and bittul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everyone said the Rebbe, that's the function of a nest. And that's what he says, El Adarabah, not to go outside the Teva. HaPu'ula b'toik Darkei HaTeva. The whole meaning of a nest is to affect and carry out a task inside the Darkei HaTeva. V'lochein, a nest lo yoyu b'oivin shesholo l'charuten as Darkei HaTeva. The whole union of the nest of Yeshua, it didn't negate at all the whole ways of the Teva. It assisted the Bnei Yisrael Hilochem, but Derech HaTeva, or in that Derech HaTeva, they had tremendous hatzlacha. In other words, they had a hatzlacha that they wouldn't have normally been able to have. And that was what the Teva saved for them and made it possible for them to keep chasing the enemy. However, at the same time, it was a chasing of the enemy, and it was a war b'poyom. It's just that it had the impetus of Lamayla Mi'ateva. So he said, because there's a difference of opinion about it, the Rebbe said he would lean towards the second pshat. Shanes hoya b'mizgeres hateva davke. What does that mean? Hainu shanes pal al kol ha'chayichovim u'mazolis, not only on the Shemesh, but it affected all the, how do you call it, the stars and the heavenly bodies inside the whole galaxy. Everything had to change in order for that to happen. And therefore, he said, Kaksher mihalchom, Arogil Ishtana, the normal passage of all these great heavenly bodies, older, Mikore, Vanasa Mahalachodes, they had to move differently for that whole period that the Shemesh was listening to Yeshua. They all had to move differently. Shuv Imkain, Yishkan Imkain, Shiloh, Shelamayla Me'ateva, B'mishgeret HaTeva. Hashem didn't just tell the whole heavenly body, stand on your heads, I'm stopping the Shemesh, and what you guys will do, that's another problem. He didn't do it that way. He moved them all. They also went all in a different way, according to the way they ordinarily move, but they moved differently, and the Shemesh just stood where it was, and that made the whole nest Yelamata for the Bnei Yisrael with their enemies. It made it possible. And Mamela Imkain, we see that we have this amazing shiluv and interconnection between the Koyah Halamayla Me'ateva in the nest and the actual world itself, as it were, went along inside a Pu'ula, which is basically Teva, with what the nest implied. It's an absolutely amazing idea. It comes that to use the expression in Yiddish, the oilamot mitgitanz, the world danced along with whatever the ultimate purpose of the nest was. Not that the world just ran away or stopped or had a kasha for mice. No, everything fitted in, according to the Nakuda of Lamayla Matel. Omnom, he said, Ashinoi Kemuvan, Nasa Alideaneh. So, but that change within the Teva began with the nest. The nest was Lamayla Meteva. Akashinoi Hadar Beteva. Herikot Ashinoi penetrated. And that's what we've been learning all the time. The Lamayla Meteva acts through and penetrates the Teva. He said, "V'zuhi afas bara b'negel l'neshel gimel and afterwards you basically Gimel Tamil. Yeah, so the Rebbe Gam Khan, Aya Hashilo, Shel Nes Batoik HaTeva. There was an unbelievableness. The very fact that they agreed and changed their minds, it's just, if you learn the whole mice of what happened, and you're familiar with the details, it's just mind-boggling, what happened. I mean, it's an S also, but nonetheless, it also occurred, as it were, with the cooperation and with the in Yiddish the mitarbeit, the together working with you of the Teva. He said, "Yachim me'ones, yes, iskimo l'shachret the Rebbe." The very fact that they agreed to mashachret the Rebbe, that's a tremendous. He said, "Haray hadova bo al pi gidrei hateva." The thing came together with the whole definitional concept of Teva. Behetem l'matzav shelahem. In other words, the whole Russian didn't just change in a minute. The ultimate change only occurred 60, I don't know how many years later, 70 years later. But the Rebbe said it already began already then, and everything was already functioning different. And he said, but it looked as if it was going according to their terms, but it really wasn't. They were still the Balabatim, and they thought they were the Balabatim. But what did they do? Instead of saying, we're going to Rahman and Atlan, let's shoot this man, we're going to send him out at all costs. There was like inside their matter, they changed Menakota Lakota. He said, the whole matter of those communists didn't just change in one moment. That was also a parallel to a union of change by way of Teva. First of all, if you know the whole story, how they even sent the Rebbe out to be shot, you know the whole story. He wandered around the wrong corner deliberately. And the whole amazing place. And in the meantime came the decision from the big window, and they all of a sudden changed everything. He said, Shikrure Lagame. It went with a whole lot of developments from the beginning, just the bit of the Gazette, so Heper HaChaim, and eventually became Shikrure Lagame. And the Rebbe makes the point very clearly in the Sicho that was the beginning of what ultimately led to the collapse of the whole communist regime. Yeah, and there's a very interesting point, which I'm not sure if they mentioned here. The Rebbe said that we see a further thing that's occurring, mamish in our day, that I don't, could be it's already happened, because this is already 25 years ago, but that there was a big argument going on at that time when the Rebbe said the Sicho in Nonalo between the authorities in Russia about the capital city, or no, not the capital city, but the big city. Was it Leningrad, or were they going to give it back the original name? There were certain people who they felt that since the communism had fallen, then they wanted to go back to the original sort of situation. And there were other old stick in the muds that they said, well, listen, this was called in the name of Lenin. He was our big hero out there. And so there was a big argument in Russia. So the Rebbe said, why would they be arguing amongst themselves to go back to the name Petersburg? What's that got to do with it? Yes. So the Rebbe said, if you examine the Alter Rebbe, he was imprisoned in approximately the same place where the Rebbe Rayatz was imprisoned, in the city when it was called Petersburg. And the Rebbe said that the Rebbe Rashab, he has a way in his ears in Torah Sholem. The Rebbe Rashab refers to the Alter Rebbe's imprisonment with the word Petersburg. He said, Far Petersburg or not Petersburg, before Petersburg and after Petersburg. Yeah. So we see that the Alter Rebbe's connection with this whole thing went through a word called Peterborough. It's called, and now they want to go back to Peterborough. So the Rebbe said, why would they want to go back to Peterborough? You know, they got more shaykhs with this letter. By the way, I think Lenin had something to do with Yid. No, he wasn't a Yid. I'm Trotsky for sure. I'm not sure about Lenin. But anyway, whatever, why should they want to go back to? So the Rebbe said that because the whole inyan of Gimel Tammuz was Peterborough. It was all going back to the Korach and the Alter Rebbe that brought about the whole Shinui. And Mamela, since he made a Shinui of that nature, it's got to become part of the Teva. And therefore, the big authorities are having an argument: should it be letting go, or should it be? The Rebbe brings it down in a footnote, an amazing thing. Absolutely mind-blowing. You see how the Rebbe takes these little things that happen in the news, and he turns them. And there's another footnote in the Sicho, also an amazing thing. And the Rebbe says that sometimes the Eibishter even makes a thing like a Raj, earthquake, or volcanic burst and all that. And he said that's a thing which happens. But he said, well, let's touch off a hole in. And the Rebbe said that there was some either a volcanic, I've forgotten what's it, it's a big long footnote from the Rebbe, either a volcanic or a, and so the Rebbe said, all of a sudden all the countries of the world are sending to assist. And he said, even Yidden have also sent, meaning the country he was sent to help over there. So the Rebbe said the fact that there's going to be Yidden there, they're going to make brachas on this thing that happened. There's a bracha. He said if just one Yid will make a bracha on all that, well, that's going to be Megala, that really the whole thing was L'maylam Teva. It looks as if it's Teva, but it had to happen in order that certain Yidden should make a bracha, and so that they will bring to a whole change in the Gilei Elikus, and therefore you'll see that the peoples of the world will assist one another, and they'll do elevate things. That's what the Rebbe brings down in a footnote. So we see from that the Rebbe takes all these things that are happening in the world, and he brings them in to fit into this whole principle. Oh, it just shows you, by the way, what sort of a koyak you have if you make a bracha. So first of all, we saw when to get the renewing of the creation of Riman, Sha'akul, Niyobakul. Now in the footnote there, it brings, people make a bracha on a thing which looks to be, a rather disturbing act of nature. That nature makes a strange thing. If you didn't make a bracha, then they bring down the, as it were, the L'maylam Teva into the Teva, and that can change certain things for L'tova in the function of the world around. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So you must never say to yourself, I'm just a crazy little individual. What can I have? What sort of ashpur can I have? I'm a nobody. So the answer is that ain't not going to be a tucker or nobody, but you have more power than what you think.
Your blessing has had an effect.
You're never going to earthquake, rattle, California.
Right now.
Well, you see, it's mamish pillar clothes. I'm telling you, it's not the what happens with the soul. Sicho. Mela says the Rebbe. That's the Inyan Gimel Tammuz. That's the start of this whole amazing process, where what ultimately led to the change in the whole Russian system in a nice way, in a way that nobody pictured that would happen like that. So the Rebbe said that all began because they themselves had paskin that that's the way it's going to happen, way back in the days of the Friedrich. Mamela says the Rebbe, now we'll move on to the Oishias of Gimel and Dalet, and we'll compare them with the Reish. Yeah. So the Rebbe said, what's this all got to do with Chodesh Tammuz? I don't know if we're going to manage to finish the whole thing, but I'll just try to get this point in. And the Rebbe says that Chodesh Tammuz is from Pesach, the 4th month. And according to the way the Jewish calendar is counted after Yetzias Mitzrayim, it's the Chodesh HaRavi, it's the 4th month. So the Rebbe said 4 is Dalet. He said Sivan is the 3rd month, yeah, and that's Gimel. And he said it's also the month of Matan Torah. Yeah. So he said Gimel and Dalet have a connection. What's the Gemara brings him a sect of Shabbos. In Daf Kuf Dalet, the Gemara says that why is it that the Aleph base runs the way it does? That Gimel and Dalet are alongside one another. Goimel Dalim. You have to be a Goimel Dalim. You have to look after poor people. You know, you have to help them. Gomel means assist or give them hashpur. So he said the same thing with Sivan and Tammuz. He said the Ina of Sivan is Matan Torah with the whole Ina. He said Tammuz didn't have such a wondrous inyonim mitzad Ashmei, or it got a bracha from Sivan, and it was Gimel Dalet, the Gomel Dalim. The Gimel gives the whole power into the Dalet. So the Rebbe said that's interesting. We spoke about the Reish before. He said Dalet and Reish have both the same meaning. He said Dalet is Dalut. Dalut means poor, very good, poverty-stricken, Dalut. Rosh, Reish is also the same. Reish is also a poor man. Rosh, Reish is a poor man. So you got Dalet and you got Reish, both of them indicating poverty. The Rebbe said, "Oh, well, what's the difference between them?" He said, Rosh, Reish, that's poverty behemoth. It's behemoth lacking. In other words, it's how they call it poverty, not mitzad kedusha. And he said the poverty of kedusha, that's got a yud in it. A dalet is a reish with a yud behind it. And what do we say yud what? Yud is the uniform bitl. In other words, that there's a certain aniyas, how they call it, poverty, that comes mitzad bitul. In other words, it could be you have everything, but you hold yourself to be a gornish. Why? Because you have a yud at the back. And the yud changes the poverty into a milah, a tremendous milah. And if you're poor in that way, you're a keli. On the contrary, you're a keli to all the tremendous bracha. So he said that's the inyan of a dalet. And he said that's the inyan of Chodesh Tammuz. Chodesh Tammuz is dalet. Why? Because it's a reish, it's poverty, but it's poverty with a yud in it. And he said, what is that yud? He said, that yud is the beetle. Once again, we come back to the beetle. He said, but it's not just some beetle. Those are the beetle, the etzem nakuda over here, the etzem point. What a yid is all about, and that's the inyan for the etzem neshama. He said, if that is my year, then you will become a poor man, but you become a poor man the right way. You are bottle. It could be you have a lot, but you're a poor man. In other words, you're bottle. You're just completely given over to Hashem, and therefore He can use you for all sorts of amazing things. He can make tremendous miracles and brachas through you because you are a poor man. Lamad Yusuf. And he said that's what happens to Tammuz. He said Tammuz is a reish turned into a dalet. And he said, why is it a race? When you first look at it, the Rebbe was imprisoned and everything. All these things are pretty tough going. They're not so good. Now, Lady of Shiva also Batamas and everything. At the beginning of the 3 weeks when they come to mind. But he said If you have the beetle at the top, you have the beetle at the emissary, the kudas, the nisham, you change it all into geula. And therefore, the dalit becomes a chodesh geula. The dalit becomes a fourth month. It becomes a chodesh geula. So you have to go back to the nekuda atmius of yourself. You follow? Who are you really? What is your real story? What is the real thing? Bittle to Hashem. But ultimately, you say, I have nothing, only what you give me, what you told me is I got to do. Here I am. Yeah. So the Rebbe brings that. I'm finishing. Yeah. The Rebbe brings that as an indication. The famous Miser. You guys know the Miser. That there was a chassid. It's famous. Once in Russia, in the really bad times, Stalin's time, and they had a little secret Fabringen with a mashpia down in a cellar. And the Fabringen went until early in the morning. A few of the guys came out and they parted different ways to go home. So he got this closet that he's walking in the Rebbe city was probably swaying a little bit. He wasn't, He did a little bit of ashki and he's walking. All of a sudden he meets up with one of the secret police. You know the Miser, meets up with one of them. Yeah, but he can't see him properly because it was all foggy in the early morning in a Russian winter morning. This big guy. So he calls out to me in Russia, who is going? Who is it that's going there? So the Chassid was thinking to himself, what is going here? He said, I just was by the Fabringen. He said, Beetle is going here. He said to him in Russian, yeah, Beetle, idiot. That means Beetle is the one that's going here. So the policeman, he heard that this must be a yid. He understood it was a yid or somebody like that. And he thought they apparently have some way of calling certain things by names, And if he shows that he doesn't know what that is, it's like he's belittling himself in front of this person. So he didn't know what the word bittle meant. He didn't know what idiot meant to be going. But he didn't know what the word bittle was. So he thought, maybe it's a name, maybe it's a term for some group or something else. But if people show he doesn't know, then he's not a policeman, So he just said, get out of here quick, So the guy just took, and he let him go altogether. So the Rebbe said from that, if you become a daled, you become with the Nakuda Atmis of the beetle, and you become from a race, you become a daled, then you can talk out and you don't have to worry. You can say beetle gate even to the communist regime. The Rebbe said ultimately that caused the communist regime. It was the one that broke, not the evil that he said bittle. That's what the Rebbe said. Yeah, so that's the finish off. And then the Rebbe said that's the way that Hashem wants the Geula should come. So we have to shape the world. We have to make the world. The whole uniform Mashiach is your futu. Your futu mind the soul. Your futu means spreading. But you can only spread when you bottle. If you're a whole Matthias, you're saying, oh yeah, not. The whole people, the whole uniform Mashiach is like Yom Yom. Pashtas, Pshitas of the Ether. And he said, if that's first, and then you get Mayan Aselcha, and you get everything going out in the Chutz, and the world is all ready for Mashiach, but the world, the way it is ready for Mashiach. Not another world that will go up into the Matzilas of the world, the way we have it will remain. And it's like I told you guys the story that I used to hear from in Melbourne, Australia, when I first met the Babbage Chassidim at the altar of Matzah Lepelo. He used to say, Moshiach soll reinkommen durch das Tür, Bapastos. He said, Moshiach should walk in through the door with absolute simplicity and some pastor. Like he used to say. That's what the Rebbe means. You have to make the world a world that's partial. And in the partials, you bring the Gilei Hayat. Have a good evening, gentlemen. Yeah. Listen, I have a brief shlichus. Are you going to see any of the guys in Tmimei Dorek? I thought Menachem would be here tonight, but he's not here. Do you maybe meet any of the guys in Tmimei Dorek?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So there's a new guy there, and his name is Ron Fogel. I had an email today from a very old Talmud of mine, and he says that I must be Makarev, this Ron Fogel. He and another Yaman, they worked on being Makarev. So it's very important that occurs, you follow? And I didn't know that. And the other day he came over to me, and I don't hear, and he talks very softly, this boy. And so therefore he spoke to me, and I couldn't really cup what he wanted, you know what I mean? But now I know, because I got this email from my Talmud. So you should pass on to this Avram my regards, and I wish him a lot of hatzlach, and that God willing we'll be able to have a connection. Okay, would you be able to do that for me? Shkoyah. Yeah. Good. Yeah. But real cool. Oh, I'm going to Sicho, so
That's good.
yeah. Gilei,
Be careful.
What I'm saying, he left.
Fine.
Fellow was sitting here, what's his name? What's the fellow's name that was sitting here?
Amnon.
Amnon. Interesting guy. Yeah. You notice that he comes out with the Dvar Malchus. He used to just come once and he comes out and he's bought the Dvar Malchus. Yeah, he learns it, isn't he? He's a very interesting guy. And every now and then, he writes little things in the Jerusalem Post. He's a very interesting guy. So listen, זה שהוא בטח מביא אותי, הוא מחכה למעלה. אתה רוצה לקחת אותי הביתה או שאתה לא יכול? כן או לא, כן? אז אולי אני אדבר איתו שהוא לא יחכה. Korach, that's what he knows, up. I just said this. Yeah. So the Rebbe said that when the Chosid, he said to the shoter, the secret police, he said, Beetle is going. He spoke in Russian. He didn't say it in some other language. But that's the whole thing that we saw the whole time. That the Ramayana Me'ateva, which is Beetle, that's the secret of the whole thing. The Nakuda, Atzmius, the Din from Beetle, has to be choider and has to affect the Etzem Teva of the world. It's got to come through, like the Birchas Kohanim. It's got to come through and penetrate the not just come through, but choder, betocha, inyan haTeva. And therefore the shoter, he had to hear it in Russian. You follow? He had to hear it in Russian. And because it was in his language, it had a different effect on him. Yeah.
So how do these inyanim of Gimel Tammuz shine with our Gimel Tammuz? These same inyanim of above Teva penetrating in Teva.
You might have to write.
I'm sorry,
No, it's
even
okay.
this is not very effective on this. I'm really not in such a good
No,
shape.
no, it's okay.
Anyway,
No, it's okay.
I'm sure what you said was good.
No, it wasn't his question.
He said, how do the inyanim of Gimel Tammuz today connect with what was? Today's Gimel Tammuz, how does it connect to back what was the original Gimel Tammuz?
Gimel Tammuz?
Yeah,
Gimel Tammuz is Shabbat.
Yeah,
right, but the Gimel Tammuz back then was a miracle.
Gimel Tammuz?
Yeah, back in Yeshua.
Yeah, you mean,
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
no, so, but this Gimel Tammuz now.
Yeah.
What-
What's the same, Kriyas, what you say?
yeah, but what's the connection? You
Write it down.
Can I have a piece of paper, please?
Good question, this is a good question, good.
No.
We'll give you a good answer. What's the connection? The connection between the two?
You're asking a question.
He's asking a question.
Oh, I see, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand. Right. Yeah,
You have to have a chalkboard.
What?
I get it. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's what you might call the, that's a $64 question. Yeah. So, listen, the truth is that that requires a little bit of a refresh. But just very, very, so, the thing is like this, that what occurred on Gimel Tammuz is the question is, what is the get of what happened? And this originally it's written in the Zohar Kodesh in Parshas. Well, I don't know what it is exactly, but that's the way our Rebbeim understood. It was hinting at that. Is that the question is asked by the Zohar Kodesh that the Torah was 2,000 years prior. That also means not a talk in time, it means in level, and Oilam as that same and so on. The Torah was primordial to the world. So since it's written in the world, in the Torah, Odom, Ki Yomush, Bo'oihel, the dinim of Paradum, if a man will die in a tent in Kafka, is a simon that a man had to die, you know. That was written in the Torah way back. A man had to die. In Cain, why does the Torah say that man died only because of the Chetei Tzedek? That's basically the question. Even over there in the Zohar, it's much more complex than that, you know. But that's basically the question in a few words. That's the question. Let's get down into it. So, comes along the Rebbe Rashab in Parshas Chukas, talk range, Tet, and this is our second Maimah in Parshas Chukas. In that year, there's one Maimah every Shabbos, or two Maimah we don't want. In other words, that the Rebbe said this Maimah on Parshas Chukas way back in Torah Science 100 years ago. He said this Maimah in and around Gimel Tammuz, because Gimel Tammuz always falls out, that occurred in and around Parshas Chukas. So what does he say over there? So the Rebbe Rashab says that there are two different types of aliyah, of going up, in the oiras that Hashem put into the world. For example, on Rosh Hashanah by night, all the oiras go up, but they leave the kelim behind. And therefore it's a very tense moment that people are davening that Hashem should want to give back the oiras into the kelim. You follow? That's one form of aliyah, but that's not a mila. You follow? That's one form of aliyah. Well, that's not a mila. Then it's brought down, the Alter Rebbe writes in Kuntrus Achrein. In Tanya, the Alter Rebbe writes that on Shabbos and also on Yom Kippur, all the kelim in all the Gimel Olam Biyah, all go up with the oiras together. They remain exactly as they are, but they go up onto one. And then Makabel from a much higher level. With the oiras, the kelim are Makabel from a higher level inside themselves, but they also are part of the aliyah, not like Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, it's aliyah's oiras, bali kelim. Although on Shabbos and on Yom Kippur, it's all the worlds go up exactly as they are, and the kelim go together with the oil. So the Rebbe said, the Rebbe Rashab writes over there, Lafizeh, the keli and the oil just have an aliyah. And they are makabel, a much higher oil. Therefore they, as it were, disappear from this world. But that's an aliyah, that's not a yerida. And therefore Eliyahu Hanavi, that Eliyahu Hanavi, he reached the point, like it's Mavur and the Chaim base, that he reached the point that he had been Mavara, his guf, to such a level that it was like the guf of Adam Mauritian, Koidim Achet, and even Yotemis there. He just went up to heaven straight. He had an aliyah, Kamoy Shuhu. And the Rebbe Rashab writes in Iron Bays that he went into Gan Eden in a guf shalom. And then later, he went from Gan Eden even higher, and there the guf can't go. So he said, what did he do? He took off his guf and hung it up on a hanger. Yeah, he took off his guf and he just left it there, hanging on a hanger in Gan Eden, and he just went higher. And whenever he needs, what he does quite often, because Hashem sends him back into the world, he just comes back, puts on his guf, and comes down to like he is. Yeah.
And Moshe Rabbeinu?
Huh?
And Moshe Rabbeinu?
Yeah. Moshe Rabbeinu is a bit of another story. But like I said, I don't mix my drinks. We're talking about Eliyahu. He said, Eliyahu just went up. So he said, that's what the Rebbe Rashab writes, that's what it meant that in the Torah, way back, that a mensch would have to die. It didn't mean, chas v'sholem, that there would be any yerida. No, that would be part of another year. After a given time, which Hashem would decide, he would take him up. He would just go up into Olam said, but he would remain, Eikshahu. That's what he writes on. He said, however, if he sins and he gets involved in chait, afila betakis, as for Shalom, then he can fall and he can die. He had a good. a natural death. That's what he calls over there, Misa Tibias. You follow? That's a Misa. And he said, that's how you read it. That's an Ishta. And he said, that's what the Torah tells us, Amaisa, that can happen and it did happen. But it wasn't what was meant to be. And then he says there are certain people that they reach the first level. Like Elohim. So you mentioned Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, why didn't they find Moshe Rabbeinu's cave? That's what he writes over there. It's funny. Your eyes jump out and say, he said, why didn't they find Moshe Rabbeinu's cave? Because there's no point to it. He's not there. He's just gone up into heaven or he's walking around. Depending on what his particular shlichus of Hashem at that moment. You follow? That we don't need to find him in his grave. It's written in some phrases, the Rebbe Rashab writes, it's written that Moshe Rabbeinu is buried. Yeah? So he said, Shivim Panim LaTorah. That is the one. You see, the expression Shivim Panim LaTorah, a very high falutin, very high level expression. That means to say that even though I say one thing, certain authorities, even in our sages, or let's say other things, they were talking about one look at the Torah. I'm talking about another look. So that's only unbelievably great people can say that. And that's what he writes over. So he says, Shivim Panim Torah. That's just very briefly what I would like to say. So in Chelik Kov Dalet, the Likuti Sichos, the Rebbe brings what the Arizal said about the Ramah. You know, he made a eulogy of the Ramah at his funeral. You know that, and he said that the Ramah could not have passed away. He says, no child. There's no way that he could. He was so pure and so perfect. He's not child to the Holy Chayit, Chas v'Shalom. He's not child. Now, why? He said, with the Holy so he say, all age, you should hang him up on a tree. If a man gets skila, you have to hang him up on a tree. So he said the whole thing is he had a mishpat maveh, although it was only because of the age. You have to depend. The word talisa can mean to depend, to make it talui on the age. He said it was only because of Chet Tzadad. So the Rebbe writes over there that it's written in the Gemara and Rav Basar that Ben Yoman and the Gimel always and they meisu rak be'etiyah shel nochad. That was only because of what the original serpent caused but they didn't really have any sin, or there was no reason why they should die. So he said, why didn't the Arizal say that about the Ramah? He said only because of the Eitzah of the Nochad. You follow? Why didn't he say that? He said, because if I say Etiyoi, Eitzah Shel Nochas, well, it's got some sort of a shaitas, a little sort of a shmektabik or something with the Nochas. You follow? And the Nochas is impurity. He said, but he didn't say that, the Arizal. He said it's all dependent in the age. And the age has got nothing to do. The age is a beautiful, it doesn't have to do with the Nochas. It was just, it's called the Gezelis age, only because of that. And then he writes, the Rebbe, he said, and that's because he was Be'ika, he started the whole period of Yafutsu Penimis HaTorah. That was the Ramah. He was teaching Penimis HaTorah for even children. Yeah, like we learn in the Rebbe Sicho that comes down into the world. So he said, people who are oisik in Penimis HaTorah, that's the way they pass away also. They pass away not because they really died, but they only pass away because of the eight. The eight are. And therefore he writes that, I can show you, it's in Kelef Kol Dalet, and the Likuti Sichos, right at the end. The Rebbe says the same thing applies to anybody who is makusha to those who learn Penimis HaTorah, and he learns that Torah. If he learns that Torah, then he also is gifted with a zav he will pass away in a way that he's not really dying. I mean, what the Rebbe Rashab calls a Misa Tivrias. You have to look it up. Avamela, Nimsalov, he said that the whole thing is changed. Things have altered. Since Pnimis Torah is a change. So things are not like they were once upon a time. So the whole meaning of what the original kavanah of Adam Kiyom is only an aliyah, and that's already beginning to be shayah. And the really great tzaddikim, they malchatchila, they just go up. They have, it's by them aninim from aliyah, and he writes it more foolish in Tofrei Shayim Tef. He writes more foolish. It's an aliyah gedolah shvilam. Yeah.
So the Rebbe's body is on one of those hooks next to Eliyahu Hanavi?
Huh?
So the Rebbe's body is on the hook next to Eliyahu Hanavi.
What are they, Mavato? Ilomela, this Pili Plois, when I in, and it needs a lot of development. The whole thing needs a lot of, I'm just telling you the Rosh HaProkim that are written of it. Well, the Rebbe brings over there in the Sicho that it's a very amazing thing that the Arizal, he was only about 9 months, a year and 9 months in the whole year in of Eretz Yisrael. He was here for a year and 9 months. So he had to compete at that moment when the Ramak passed away. He was during that little weeny amount of time that the Rizal was here, the Ramak had to pass away. Elamai, that had to occur, that whole amazing Gilui through that little Ramak. It's only a short few sentences that they read. The whole speech was very brief. He didn't talk along the readers. It was very brief. Oh, it's a big Arichas. Perhaps.
Okay, good answer.
It's probably an equal amount of use. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Equal amount of
Use.
use.
He's using it. He's putting it on. Development. She did. I'm a child to let it. So it is and it isn't.
Bittul.
But it for sure, it's also the Nakudas Abito on that particular level is very, very high. Sort of bittul, and that's going the whole unit on Oil Matzilas is not really a Matthias. It's there, but it's not really. That's what he says in Tanya, Preklamade, in the Hagor. That's what he heard from the Magid. That Hulavadi Hu, the angel will say, well, that's a level of Chokmah. You say, so make up your mind. If it's angel or say, then it's not there. So what do you say? That's a level of Chokmah. Madrigas of Chokmah indicates that it's there. There's a level. You're assuming that it's there, but it's not there.
Okay, that's it. We're ending the stream here.
Yeah, okay.